and not for pretend not long. Okay, so this will be like the end of our little series on wholeness, because we've been talking about that quite a bit over the last few weeks. Yes. And so the reason why I chose this word is because a lot of the reason why we can't get started on any type of healing is that we cannot forgive. And then people go, well, if I forgive, does that mean I forget? Does that mean I just let this person back into my life? They're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. I've tried forgiving them. They say they're sorry. So one of the precedents I want to set for forgiving and being forgiven, right, is that you have to be dealing with people that understand what that means. Because if you're like children, for instance, like when a kid says they're sorry, it's like, no, I'm sorry I got caught. But I'm not necessarily sorry for what I did. And so it's a learned process over time how to be sorry or how to be forgiven, how to ask for forgiveness. But also, as a person forgiving somebody or receiving forgiveness, you need to know what's required of you and how you should go about getting it as well. Okay? So I have some verses at the end. We'll read all of those because they're just like one verse. But I have 3 words on the page, and I'm just going to briefly describe each one. And I want you guys to take some time and really meditate on this, because this is where the transformation happens, and you're going to find out some shocking things about forgiveness and what Yah sees in forgiveness. Okay, so I put for my launching pad, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Okay? We'll get into what that word forgive means, but we're going to launch there, because when we get the Master's Prayer, or the model prayer given by Yahushua, he's telling us how we should be approaching Yah. Not to be repetitive and saying the same thing over and over again, but what we should be asking when we pray. And one of the things in there that's a part of our life is the forgiveness part, okay? So the first word for forgive is this word salak. And if you have been around a person that knows Hebrew, or if you've been to Israel, you'll hear this a lot because it's kind of crowded. People go, sliha, sliha, sliha. And say it over and over and over and over and over again. It means excuse me, pardon, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. Okay? So one of the words for forgiveness is the word salak, or like the form that we say to you is sliha. Right? And it means to progress through forgiveness. So I use the example of a crowded space, because you have to move through people, right? And so when you move through people and you're moving through life, you're going to do some things that are either going to piss people off, right? You're going to step on somebody's shoe, you're going to bump into somebody's not going to understand your intent for something. So there's the idea of progressing through forgiveness, meaning as I'm moving through life, I'm going to have to go through the process of forgiving and being forgiven. Does that make sense? Okay, next is the idea of lifting out of debt. We'll see that in actually the word picture, or to pardon. So this idea of a samik is a support or a prop, and the lamed is the actual thing in this, the tool in this word, which is the thing that's going to lift out. And then the het is to separate, right? So the picture comes Hebraically in function from a shepherd who, when a sheep falls or when something gets into a place, it lifts it out of, like a pit, or out of an unfavorable circumstance. And that's why there's the part of the hook, the shepherd's staff, that kind of looks like this, right? Or like this. Because one part is to goad or to guide, but it also can be used to hook or to pull something out of danger, right? So the idea of forgiveness in this sense is lifting one out of debt. So in our case, for us, spiritually, Yah has lifted us out of debt. He's lifted us out of the debt of sin. Okay? Pardoning. So a pardon is this, where you deserve something, and then somebody steps in your place and says, no, that's not going to happen. Or the person you owe the debt to says, you know what? It's okay. And I gave some examples on the page. Joseph in Genesis 50, his dad comes to him, he's like, you know what? Your brothers, though, like, don't do anything to them because of what they did to you, right? And his response was, I'm not. I understand that what I went through was one, it had to happen for me to do something, but he said, I pardoned my brothers. In his position, he could have killed them all. And then he kept his little brother Benjamin alive and his dad and could have just went about his way. But he's like, no, I understand something about the process of forgiveness. And it is that I was put in this position to do something for Yah. And I can't hold what, like Maura was saying earlier in his message, I can't hold me being a mark against you guys. Does that make sense? Okay. Moses and Miriam. Miriam went to her brother, murmured against Moses. Yah gave her leprosy and put her outside the camp for 7 days. And everybody had to wait for her because there was no moving along in the camp without anybody else. And in the process, Moshe wanted to pray for her. And so this idea of forgiveness, he understood. He was like, okay, no, you can't. But he wanted to lift her out of her debt. Can you see the working picture of it? Okay, Job and his friends. What did Job have to do for his friends? He had to then pray for his friends and lift them out of the debt of complaining and telling him that he had done something wrong. Which leads me to a point that Maury didn't say, but I'm going to say it. We're going to have to reconsider which books of the Bible, and this is funny, this probably is what people did when they were like saying, we're going to hold out on that one. Because one of the books, I don't know if it's Jubilees or Jasher, said that Job was unrighteous. That's why he ended up in his position. And so it said that he had conspired against the Hebrews as an Edomite, because that is what Job was, and that's why he was given the plague. But the scripture says on more than one account, like today we read it, that he was righteous, and it said his prayer was pure. Yeah. So I'm just going to throw that out there just now because it came to my head at this moment. Next, obviously, Yahushua, where he was afflicted, but in his action, or in the process of Salak, he then retrieved mankind out of sin as a whole. Okay? Next one is the word kafar. I'm just going to write it up here. It's kaf, pei, resh. The word here is to cover or atone. So the process of forgiveness is the process of also covering and atoning for, not just Yah doing it for us, we're talking about for one another, because the word kafar is also the same word for village. Kafar, to cover and atone, is also the same word for village. It means a protective covering that goes over something, the covering of a debt or a wrong, or a village. It's a community outside of the city walls that is covered with protection from the city or a ransom. So Mark 10:45 says, for even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many. So the idea of the ransom was one for many, but it also carried with it kafar, the idea of the village. The village of people, okay? So when we are forgiving or being forgiven, scripture also says love covers, kafar, a multitude of sin. Why? Because when a person does something wrong, it is our job as a reconciling people to then cover that person, because then they are in a vulnerable situation. For who? The enemy. If I'm not covered by the community, then I'm outside of the community, and then all of the lions and tigers and bears, oh my, will then get that person. It says the enemy is like a lion waiting for who to devour. He doesn't devour a whole crowd of people. It's always that one lone ranger out here, like, oh, with your head down, feeling all bad. There's the adversary, like, whoop, got him, right? Okay. The next verse is 1 Peter 4:7-8. But the end, and this is where my emphasis will be for the rest of this thing. But the end of all things is at hand. That's the time we live in right now. Mm-hmm. Be therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent charity or love among yourselves. For charity shall cover a multitude of sin. We are living in the last days where this hit me so hard because he's like, it's that time. And right now, being mad or being outside of the covering or not lifting each other out or not being there for each other is not going to work. This is the time right now where the covering of the community is the most important. And to know that and to function in that is imperative to the survival of the whole. Okay? The next word is the word nasa. Nun, samik, and it's spelled like a couple ways. Nun, samik, hey, and I put on there nun, samik, samik, nun, samik, aleph. All of these give you a different functioning form of the same word. And it means standard, lift, compel by grabbing a hold of, to lift a burden or to carry it, to prove something or someone, and then to elevate. So the idea of forgiveness being nasa, right, is that the standard for the Hebrew is forgiveness. He's like, I'm going to raise up a standard. What is the standard? Oh, well, how they're going to know you is by how you treat one another.
Amen.
Right? And the love you have toward one another. See, a lot of times, it's hard to forgive because I don't think we really love the person in the first place. It's hard enough. Because people you love, like you love, you easily forgive. Like you do. Like the people you really love, people you really care about, your spouse, like they can do some stuff to you and it's like, no, but it's like, it can be terrible. And you're like, but I love this person. And I made a commitment to this person to be there for this person. But sometimes when it comes to people who are not like our spouses or our mothers or our fathers, it's difficult for us to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to get over it just as fast as I would if it was somebody who I really cared about. Because if I say I love you, it needs to be the same all the way across the board. One of the issues that people have with the relationship between Jonathan and David is because we have a hard time operating in that type of love without it being romantic and being in our feelings. So when he says, man, my soul was knit to this person, like, man, I'm like, men who've been to war or who have really close relationships with like maybe their fathers or other people, they kind of can understand a little bit. But because in our society we don't really have those relationships, male to male, then it seems like weird. And so, over history, like, was David gay? It's like, are you kidding me? No, he understood this idea of this person has covered me, like literally, like against his own father. Literally has helped me escape, literally has fought with me. And I mean, you think about battle, like somebody could have been slicing for his head, he could have stopped him and killed the person. So he's like, this person has shown me that they love me. As a community and as a covering, and with love and forgiveness being the standard, that's why people should want to be Hebrews. The inside that is raised up in the last day is like, through all the stuff they've been through as a people, through slavery, through persecution, through mistreating, through whatever, why do these people still love each other? Why do they still love people? Why are they even still here? It becomes a testimony. It's like a standard. It's like, wow, I've been through less, and I hate the world. And with all that you've been through as a people, you're still welcoming? You're not like racist? You're not like, it kind of puts people in a weird place and it becomes a standard. That's why he chose a people who could operate according to that standard. Where we don't go and look at you and go like, man, you're a little too brown for my liking, so no, you can't be in it. Or you're too pale for my liking, I know you can't either. It becomes a standard. And that standard is forgiveness. And that's hard for a lot of Hebrews because right now everything is very, very racially driven. And when you see it, it's like, it can't be. It cannot be. When it's our forgiveness and our propensity and our nature to do so, that is part of the standard in redeeming the rest of the people, the rest of the nations. Okay? To lift a burden or to carry it. When you forgive somebody, this is the function you're doing for yourself and the other person. When you forgive, you are taking the burden off. Because being mad is hard and it will wear you down.
Amen.
Being upset or carrying something it will drive you into the ground.
Amen.
Carry around 10 extra pounds to drive you into the ground. So think about what weight mentally, the mental weight of unforgiveness will do to a person. Right? But also when you forgive, like when you take it off of you, you forgive a person, but that also when you ask for forgiveness, then that's also taking a burden. Because you're lifting what you've done to a person from off of them and putting it to the side. Now, there is the reality that people like to carry burdens, though. If this wouldn't even be a case if Hebrews weren't some burden carrying people, right? Right? It is. You want it, because if I hold on to my offense, then I can stay in this place. I can stay upset, I can stay mad, and then I'll justify it, but then that is the adversary's opportunity to then do like before, prowl like a lion and then devour you, because anger separates us from the community. Anger separates us from one another. Anger will separate you from your spouse. Anger will and when you begin to operate in the mind of Mashiach, you'll understand like, wait, what? I can't do this. So I'm gonna give you the idea. Let me go a little bit further. Next one, prove, and I'll go back to this. Forgiving somebody proves them. So the word we get in scripture is the word for is to rebuke. It says rebuke this person, and if they ask you forgiveness, then restore them. The word rebuke in English is not a proper translation of what reprove or to rebuke is Hebraically. The idea is this, that when a person does something wrong, reprove means to cover them, to surround them. You surround the person, and it gives them space and time to think about what they've done. And then when they come to you after they've thought about it, then you forgive them. So reprove is better said reprove. It's like a sword. I swung it, it broke. I need to remake it and then re-swing it. And if it breaks again, I remake it, then I re-swing it until that thing has proven to be sharp enough and be worthy enough to stand amongst to guard the people in a sword sense, okay? So the verse that we have for the ensign is Isaiah 59:19-21. So shall they fear the name of Yahuwah from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of Yahuwah shall lift up a standard against him. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion, and unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob, saith Yahuwah, as for me, this is my covenant with them, saith Yahuwah. My spirit that is upon thee, and my word which I have put in thy mouth, shall not depart out of thy mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, saith Yahuwah, from henceforth and forever. The standard is what brings the kingdom. When we begin to operate like a community and cover and forgive, then I can then deal with you. I'm going to read to you why that has to be the case. If somebody can just get each one of these, and we have to bring it kind of quickly. So Matthew 6:14-15. And if you can get the one after that, then we can just kind of popcorn around, and that's it for me. Because I'm going to show you why, instead of me saying it, why you have to forgive. So Matthew 6:14-15. It says, for if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. Your ability to forgive is attached to your ability to be forgiven. People keep saying, I don't know why I keep going through this. And I don't know why when I pray the Most High doesn't hear me. He's not hearing you because you haven't forgiven whoever or whomsoever you're supposed to forgive. He's not listening. It's the same way. The same thing applies in marriage. If you are in marriage and you guys have a beef, he's like, fix it. With brethren, don't come to me. Fix what you have with them and then come and talk to me. It's the same thing. If you have unforgiveness, his ears are like, nope. Why should I listen to your petition when you won't pardon the one that you have held in contempt?
Amen.
Okay?
Amen.
Anybody have Luke 17:3-4?
Take heed to yourself.
Louder.
Take heed to yourself. If thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him. And if he repent, forgive him. And if he trespass against thee 7 times in a day, and 7 times in a day turn again to thee, saying, I repent, thou shalt forgive him.
Okay. So it carries with the idea, somebody's like, see, that means a person just do whatever they want to do to me. Well, first of all, if a person repents, it means that they turned away from doing that same exact thing. Right. Which means that they did something different to you. So they've just found other ways to get on your nerves. Repent means to turn away from. It doesn't mean to turn away from to go back to. It's not 360, it's 180. Which meant that in a day, a person can do 70 things that can offend you.
Wow.
And if they do 70 different things, not the same thing 70 times, that would make all of us a fool for letting a person do the same thing over and over again, right? But 70 different things, you forgive them every time, because why? You're reproving them. Go back to the drawing board, you still don't got it right. Go back to the drawing board, you still don't have it right. But if a person keeps doing the same thing, that is indicative of a person that doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. If they do the same thing that they've known has caused offense over and over again, that's provoking. That's a difference. Okay, does somebody have Ephesians 4:31 through 32?
Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as Yah for sake hath forgiven you.
Okay, so he says, you have to forgive as Yah has forgiven you. We're going to get to a parable here, but I'm just going to get to it now. Remember the parable with the guy who went to the king, usually in the parable, and he owed a great debt. And he's like, oh man, my whole family's going to end up, and please forgive me. He's like, you know what, man? Go. You're good. Your debt's wiped clean. And he goes outside, he beats up a guy for like 5 shekels. And the king was like, you know what, you're wicked. The functionality of Hebrew is still in the New Testament. Because the idea that it was, he lifted a burden off of this guy, lifted him out of debt. Literally. He's telling the picture with the function of forgiveness in it. He's like, you got lifted out of debt, and a debt that you couldn't pay. And now you're mad about somebody doing something to you, that now with all the money you have free and clear without your family being enslaved, you shouldn't even be tripping on. So how can you not operate in brotherly love? You're not a brother or a sister if you stay mad at somebody. Because I have a sister, I have 2 sisters, but one, obviously, one of my sisters passed, but we would fight and be in the same bed at night. I mean, fight like bloody noses and everything, like be duking it out, like, and then be like, can I sleep with you tonight? Like, seriously, why? Because we just understood carnal relation, which is you're my sister, we gotta live here together, so we gonna have to get along. But the spiritual side of it is, this is flesh of my flesh. Like, this is my blood. Well, aren't we all blood? Like, do we really believe that, or are we just like playing around? Because if you believe it, then it should be nothing. Like, I think, you get my point, right? Okay, next one, 1 John 1 through 9. Anybody have it? I'm trying to.
1:9.
1 John 1:9, I'm sorry. He's like, wait, what? 1 John 1.
If we confess our sin, he is faithful and just to forgive us of our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness.
Okay, there it is. Anybody have Acts 3:19? And I'm going to try to say it.
Acts 3:19.
Mm-hmm.
Repent ye therefore and be converted, that your sins may be blotted out when the times of refreshing shall come from the presence of Yah.
So it says that a time of refreshing is coming from the presence of Yah. So when the time comes and if you haven't repented, guess what? The time of refreshing will not come upon you. We are looking forward to the second coming of Messiah. That is the biggest time of refreshing. You cannot go into the kingdom mad. You cannot go into the kingdom with unforgiveness. You will mess up the whole operation. You can't. This is, people, somebody may argue this, but this is the preparation for the passing under the rod. Everyone has to. So you really gonna stand up there and be like, nah, I'm good. He ain't gonna see this unforgiveness I got in my heart. And just walk in and be like, if you don't go back to the end of the line. Okay, I have Isaiah 43, and I think it's 25 and 26. And it says, I, even I, am he that blotteth out thy transgression for mine own sake, and will not remember thy sins. Put me in remembrance, let us plead together, declare thou that thou mayest be justified. He's the one that does it for his own sake. So if we know that it's because of his namesake that we have to forgive one another, it carries a different weight. It's not because of what you feel. It's not even about you. It's because you will break one of the commandments. Was it the second? Second commandment is take the Lord's name in vain. Which one is that one? Third. You are breaking the third commandment if you don't forgive. Because he forgives for his namesake. So if you can't forgive, then you're in transgression of a function that he does for his namesake. Taking his name in vain and saying, I'm taking upon his name, his character, and then not operating according to his character. If he lets it go and sends it as far as the east is from the west and don't remember it no more, and we've done way worse things to Yah, then how can we sit and say, oh no, I'm not, no, that was too far. How? What's too far? Me and Yosh talk about this because, we talked about like the being the angry Hebrew thing. And we had to come to the conclusion of, which one of anybody of my commandments did anybody break for me to be so mad? Like, do I have any commandments? Has anybody actually transgressed against my law? Or am I mad just because I'm mad? That was somebody did to me and I've done much worse to y'all. Okay. Does anybody have, Isaiah 1:18?
Come now and let us reason together, saith Yahweh. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool.
So he's like, can we reason about this? Like, he even wants to talk to us. Like, you've done something wrong. He's like, look, come here. Let's talk about this. Like, we can fix this. We can make this right? Okay, so I have Micah 7. Somebody have Micah 7, 18, 19, and I'm going to get Matthew 6 and 9.
Who is an Elohim like unto thee, that pardoneth iniquity and passeth the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? He retaineth not his anger forever, because he delighteth in mercy. He will turn again, he will have compassion upon us, he will subdue our iniquities, and thou wilt cast all their sins into the depths of the sea.
That was Micah 7, 18 through 19, right? He says, who is like thee that would read that part, who is like thee who will pardon?
Pardon iniquity and passes by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage.
So what it shows us is, if you're not willing to forgive, you're not the remnant. Period. Because only the remnant that has forgiven and is being forgiven is even worthy through them being pardoned to even enter in. You can't. Like, I had to come to that hard conclusion, like, there can't be anything I'm holding on to. Nothing. Like, oh, but this made me mad. Or my husband did this and it made me feel like this. And I'm like, really? Okay. Let's deal with that. So, are you mine? Because this is what I've done for you. And you don't want somebody to have the same thing that I've given you? Yeah. So you want me to literally, what you're saying, you want me to send them to hell because of how mad you are. You want like eternal separation for that person because you won't forgive them, because sometimes it's our forgiveness that lifts the burden of sin and keeps people from walking out the way that we're looking at. It's like, you keep beating me up with the same thing. I had a friend of mine, and her mom was on drugs. And she literally, there's 11 of them. And they would make her feel terrible. And as a person, when people who are on drugs sometimes there's excuses for why. And every time they would bring it up to her, like, well, you did this, and this is how her life was, then she'd leave, and they wouldn't see her. And I had to tell her, I was like, I get that you have a grievance, but you have to lift that burden off of her, because you have to take that excuse away. Your anger and how you feel about her has become her excuse. So in forgiving, sometimes we lift the burden and allow a person to actually live free by us taking away our grievance. Okay. Matthew chapter 6, and if somebody can get Mark 11:25, and then Matthew 26:28 on that. Matthew chapter 6, 9 through 15 says, After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in Shamayim, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation. So temptation is into reproof. Don't have to send us to be reproved. It doesn't mean temptation like Yah's tempting you, no. Keep me on the straight path so I don't have to be reproved, right? But deliver us, shalak, pull us out of, lift the burden off of us of evil. Does that make more sense now? Right? He says, for thine is the kingdom, right? Your way is the right way. Your kingdom has the righteousness and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Does that change that whole way that you saw that? Okay. Does somebody have Mark 11:25?
And when ye stand praying, forgive, if you have aught against any, that your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses.
Okay, I'm going to read that just so I can read it because that's kind of my kicker. So that was Mark 11:25. Mark 11:25. And it says, and when ye stand praying, forgive. It says, and maybe forgive. Or you can do it if you want to or if you don't know. Forgive, commandment, period. And he says, if ye have aught against any, if you have an issue with somebody, that your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. We are linked together so tight as a community that if one person is in unforgiveness, then it puts us all at odds. Does that make sense? We are not, so when you say you are, if we're saying we are one, then we're one, period. You don't get to pick and choose and like pop in, pop out. It doesn't work like that. We're in it to the end. So that's why there are rules for when you have issues within the congregation. Why? Because it puts the whole group at a halt. You may think you're moving forward, but nobody's moving if you're a community. Does that make sense? Okay. Last one, Matthew 26:28. 26:28. It says, for this is the blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. The blood has been shed for the remission of sin. So if the blood is the power to remove sin and is our purchase price, is our redemption, is our shalach, is us being drawn out or rescued or redeemed, then how can you hold somebody in unforgiveness? So what you're pretty much saying is the blood don't work for what you did to me though. It stops there. No, it covers everything. So if you hold on to it, then you're literally refusing the removal of the sin for that person. You have to forgive. That's how the world knows that we are His. How we love one another, how we forgive one another, how we cover one another, how we pull each other out, and how we don't hold grudges. The world does that. We don't. So as a people, if you have an issue with somebody who's not in Torah, let it go because they're not His anyways. Their sentence has been given already. So why would you make it even worse on them? And for the people that are in Torah, we have to, like he said, continue to press toward the mark. So if you have become, or you're holding the weight and sin on that person, they run and you holding on to the back of their coat, like, let it go. Because then guess what? While you're holding them, you're not moving. Does that make sense? Okay, so it is our function as a people to forgive. So today, whoever the person is, however you feel, whatever you're holding on to, let it go. Without any pretenses, not if they, when they, well, if they, but if they next time, let it go, leave it alone, lay aside every sin and every weight so you can run this race. Yes. Yes.
So I have forgiven the ought that's against me at work.
Uh huh.
And